Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing another video from Grab the Lantern today. I've had enough practice with Naafiri that I finally want to put out my review of our newest champion. Now, Naafiri made a lot of waves when she was initially revealed, myself included, because she was marketed as an easy-to-play assassin, which are two things that should never be in the same sentence together. Assassins are defined by the fact that they require lots of mechanical skill and execution to be good at, and generally good game sense as well, and Naafiri being simple to play was going to ruin at least one of these things. That said, having gotten a chance to actually play with our newest puppy, I feel confident in saying that Naafiri feels very well designed. I actually quite like the way in which her kit has been set up, and I do really feel like Riot have done a very good job with making her. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those pros now. First up, I think Naafiri has a lot of skill expression despite being a simple to-play champion. Her Q, for example, requires 2 hits for the execute damage. A good Naafiri is going to land both, a bad Naafiri is going to miss one of them. Her R is a very simple ability that has a lot of effects that can be used in different ways, making it very flexible. A good Naafiri player, for example, will realize that if they press R and then auto-attack a champion, they can get a shield, which may make a difference in the middle of a pitched fight. You can use the movement speed to chase down a target or to just roam the map faster. You can use the reveal that it generates in order to locate suspected enemies in Fog of War before dashing to them with your W. There are a lot of things that the R does for you. And so you have enough ability to say, because it does so many individual things, I'm going to use it for this effect specifically, as opposed to just pressing it to become generally better. The E allowing you to save your pack mates, and it's also your only target agnostic dash, meaning that sometimes the correct play is to use it to get away instead of trying to use it to gap close on somebody or use it for damage. There's a lot of different ways in which Naafiri's kit feels like it has enough flexibility that even though it's very simple, there are a lot of points of mastery to it. W obviously is a targeted gap closer, but I really have not had much of an issue with it or been that down on the ability since it was initially revealed. Obviously, Riot revealed that allies can body block it, making it, giving it counterplay in that regard, but there are also a lot of other things that I think it being targeted actually makes it a little bit weaker. For starters, targeted isn't necessarily stronger. Skill shot abilities, for example, let you target enemies that you can't see or that otherwise have disappeared into a bush, for example, versus, non-targeted abilities allow you to do that versus targeted abilities where you can't do that. You have to have vision and they have to be in range. Skill shot mobility can traverse walls or let you move in unpredictable ways, which you can't do in the Naafiri W. The second you press it, everyone knows where you're going to end up and can therefore aim their abilities accordingly. And it also has a very long wind-up, which has a couple of different effects. Obviously, allies can see it coming and intercept it, but it also gives the target time to prepare, which is something that I love about this assassin kit. I'm a big fan of Zed's assassin kit, for example, because I really like how Deathmark sort of telegraphs what it's doing, right? Deathmark is the kind of ability that says, hey, I am dashing to this person, I will land shortly, be ready. And even if you're isolated, the ability's wind-up puts you into that outplay or die mentality. You know that you're not dead just because Zed is dashing on top of you, but you are going to need to be on your A game to survive the assassination attempt. And Naafiri W does that very similarly. It buys you enough time to say, Naafiri is dashing, I need to be prepared. Whether that's saving a key cooldown, trying to time a cooldown, trying to maneuver in such a way that she misses her initial skill shots. There's a lot of things that I think it works for me, given that it's got a long wind-up. It also makes it a bit of an interesting ability for Naafiri to use because it is a DPS down. Even if you have a relatively low W cooldown, you don't want to press it more than once if you're on top of an enemy champion because you spend so long standing there shaking your butt before dashing to them that you don't actually do any damage, right? It's a DPS drop. So it gives it a very interesting feel to it that I think overall makes the ability feel generally fine to play with. I think Naafiri's kit also does a very good job of incentivizing assassin-like play. Her gap closer is body blockable. Naafiri therefore needs to be looking for a flank if she is in a team fight, because otherwise her dash will get stopped on the first enemy champion it hits, which will probably be a frontliner, who will then proceed to murder her, right? There isn't really a way for her to get around that, other than finding a flank that then she can dash onto a squishy uncontested. Naafiri's ultimate as well offers a ton of bonuses that are best used when she's roaming the map and looking for picks. There are a lot of things it does, but it doesn't make you tremendously good in combat. You get the extra pack mates, you get the shield, but it's the movement and the reveal that are extremely powerful, and that I think really allow Naafiri to be a scary roaming threat. If she sees you disappear in the Fog of War, she can follow immediately after you, press R, get the reveal, dash onto you now that you're isolated. There's a lot of things that I really like that Call the Pack does, and as a result I think it's a very well designed ability that I think works very well on Naafiri's kit in particular. So there are a ton of things that I like about Naafiri, but there are some things that I don't think are very good. The first of which that I just want to touch on very briefly is, of course, the targeted gap closer. I did just sing its praises up above, but it can be very frustrating on both sides. The target can't do anything about it except not be in range, which is not always the case. You can't always do that. And so watching Naafiri press W on you when you're low health is just like, oh, okay, I guess I'm dead then to this assassin. Or even if she's just ahead and presses W, right? It's just, okay, I guess I'm just dead to this. And that doesn't feel particularly good to play against. It may also not feel good to play as. It can be extremely frustrating when you're just out of range and don't have the movement speed to run someone down, and you're hammering your keyboard on the W key saying, let me dash, and you can't actually do it. It's just a frustrating ability on both sides. I think Riot have done as good a job as they could, given that's a targeted gap closer on an assassin, but it's still a targeted gap closer on an assassin, and there are issues with that inherently. Naafiri is also another champion with minions that feel useless. I've harped on about Minion Mancers before in previous videos. I may do an entire video about it at some point, but Minion Mancers are very difficult to get right, and I don't think Riot have managed it for Naafiri. I at least didn't really notice a DPS drop at all for having packmates or not having packmates. It didn't feel like they did much of anything for me outside of made it so that I got minions that otherwise I would have missed last hitting. I didn't particularly feel like they mattered to my core gameplay. I tried to keep them alive with my E as best as I could, but it didn't feel like that mattered, right? I was asking myself, like, is this worth the mana? Is this worth the cooldown to do this? Do they matter to that point, or should I just be letting them die and then spawning new ones? I never had an opportunity to play against Naafiri, so I can't speak to the other side of things, but it doesn't feel to me like enemy champions were prioritizing killing Naafiri's packmates, or even that they mattered to that point, right? Maybe if I played against her, I would know, but it didn't feel like Naafiri's packmates mattered to that extent, and as a result, I just wasn't particularly excited about them as a whole, and I feel like it's just another champion with a passive that doesn't feel good to play because, well, you don't actually get any value off of sort of your main shtick, which is that you're playing as a sentient wolf pack, I guess. It feels like you're Yorick flinging Mistwalkers at you with his E, right? Because your Q will cause your packmates to leap to the target strikes, but it doesn't feel as powerful as the play that Yorick gets to make, and Yorick's kit at least was fully designed with the idea that he'd be minion mancing. Naafiri has so many other things going for her that having packmates just feels arbitrary and not relevant to the kit at all. Part of the issue as well here is that the packmates, if they do give you a relevant DPS bump, I feel like Naafiri will just build Bruiser and rely on her packmates to do a ton of damage for her. And that's not a scenario Riot want either, where an assassin builds Bruiser and we end up back in the similar boat to where we were with Tank Echo and the like. We want Naafiri to be playing this high-risk, high-reward assassin playstyle, and that's going to get completely dropped off if she gets to build Bruiser and just say, I'm just going to kill you with all of my packmates. Moving on to talk about the character a little bit here, because I always like touching on the character. I think Riot made another Darkin, which I'm always down for, and it seems like Naafiri has an interesting plot hook in trying to recruit other Darkin to join her now that they sort of realize the power of teaming up and acting as a pack, something that I feel like Naafiri probably should have noticed back during the days of the Golden Legion, but maybe she didn't until just now. You know, who really knows? But either way, I do like the idea that Naafiri will be trying to recruit other Darkin. No other Darkin that we know of has attempted to do that, and as a result, I think it's a fun little plot point for her specifically. That said, there is a huge character design issue in her current form, which is that she is the aforementioned sentient pack of dogs. I like Riot, I love when Riot introduces new and exciting Darkin forms, whether it's Balcook's Bandlewood body, or Varus's compound body of 2 gay men, or Aatrox's growing in size with each slain enemy. But this one has some unique challenges. First off, who is Naafiri? Is she the entire pack? Is she just the main body? If she is the entire pack, do the packmates dying affect her in any way, or are they just literally expendable guys that she can just throw at enemies? Are there infinite packmates? The game seems to imply that she just spawns them out of her body, but is that actually the case, or is there a legitimate pack of dogs that she roams with that is finite in size, and that if dogs die, she has to go find, I guess, other dogs to recruit, right, so to speak? And this also raised the question of where the Darkin Dagger is in particular. It's one of the biggest things that I think Riot are missing in this design, is that Naafiri doesn't really have an iconic weapon with her, right? It's just Naafiri, and even though she does have the sort of dagger iconography in her body, she's not actually wielding the dagger. We don't actually see her use it in any way, shape, or form, and you're missing that sort of concept from the Darkin that I so enjoy. And now Riot have made some of this deliberately vague to avoid another plot hole that they generated for saying Naafiri's dagger was broken, because it literally can't be. The Celestial Targonians couldn't destroy the Darkened weapons, that's why they hid them. And so, you know, Riot said, basically, we don't know. Naafiri doesn't know how she gets to be a whole pack at the same time. But this just leaves Naafiri feeling like they're Season 2 characters, where Riot basically just says, aren't they mysterious? And then never talks about the character again, or ever gives us any explanations about the character whatsoever. And it doesn't help that, and as a result, it feels like Naafiri will end up being just another character that Riot introduce and then do nothing with for years, if ever, right? Like the kind of thing where they say, yeah, we introduced this character, we're excited to tell their story, except then the story never gets told. We have a countless number of backlog champions who haven't gotten much, if any, lore development whatsoever, even in skin universes, and as a result, Naafiri's just another one for the pile, another character to throw on there who has mysteries and has plot hooks that will never get touched by Riot ever again. They could potentially prove me wrong on this point, but suffice it to say, I'm not holding my breath. Overall, though, I am very happy with Naafiri. I think she's a very well-designed character. I think that there are a lot of things that she does that I'm actually quite happy with. I think she does pull off the shtick of being a simple-to-play assassin, a good beginner assassin to help players learn the role without being overly strong in that particular role. And in general, I'm a big fan of the character overall, and even the character design, my sort of nitpicks aside. But you guys let me know what you think of Naafiri down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all later.